Hey there, gamers! It's been a while since I've made a video game video. This is the Trite Maniac, and right now, oh hey, looks like I'm going through yet another Pokemon challenge. Okay, what challenge could it be? I think the last one I uploaded was the Key Items Only challenge, which was an experience. No, this one, the actual main playthrough of the game is going to be pretty normal. However, the goal here is just in Generation 1, get a full living dex. Nobody really talked about the idea of a living dex back at the time that Gen 1 was the most recent gen. In the Pokemon games, to complete the pokedex, you register Pokemon, and as long as you've ever owned a member of a Pokemon species, it's counted as, okay, you have the data there, right? The idea is the Pokedex is you, a 10-year-old kid, are writing down stuff about the Pokemon, and once you've gathered the data, you've gathered the data. Never mind that it would appear that the data you're writing down are not consistently correct. Whole set of videos on that. I recommend watching Chip Tide's video on some Pokedex entries and what would actually happen if they were literally accurate and some of the science behind what can go wrong there. Anyway, in this video though, it's not going to be enough to say, oh yeah, I've recorded the data on all these Pokemon. No, it's actually getting all of them so that you'd have them all, and if you had to enter battle with any of the 150 non-mythical species, you'd be able to do that. You'd be able to go and grab, your Charmeleon or your Lickitung or what have you. And so that means not just recording the data, but having 150 Pokemon stored in one of each species. I was inspired to make a video about this when I just been browsing YouTube the other night and saw Lyra made a website's video on his experience completing a living dex. And honestly, I felt like he didn't really know what he was doing. Like he hadn't really planned it out very thoroughly. And that's okay, right? For all I know, it might have just been that he thought he could get the likes or the attention by just complaining about stuff, and that is a way to do it. Uh, and a lot of it might be, well, if you were to do it a second time, that he'd play things differently. I should let you know, before making this video, I actually did create a living dex, or play through Gen 1 and have a living dex, and then started new files and all of those. By the way, this software I'm using here, this is TGB Dual. It's the only Game Boy emulator I know of that allows connection for trading. If you've never heard of it, just do a Google search on TGB Dual and you should be able to get it just fine. Anyway, as you can see here, I started with Squirtle. My main playthrough, when I'm just doing a quick playthrough for fun, I start with Squirtle and switch to a Starmie once I can get a Staryu and evolve it. As you can see here, I've already had some silly little mistakes, like battling the Light Years trainer when I wasn't ready for it. Yeah, and this is in that awkward stage if you ever started with Squirtle of you've got Bubble but you don't have Water Gun yet. And my cat is up on the desk and kind of blocking my view from what I'm trying to see. That cat, by the way, is not the cat in the photo. No, I don't have a picture of somebody else's random cat there. But on the background, that is Pandora, the cat that I got. She wasn't originally mine, but the cat that was rehomed into my home in 2019, and who unfortunately. Sorry about that. Had a brief technical issue, but who unfortunately passed away in February. Um, Meanwhile, the other cat, Honey, is one that followed me home on Rosh Hashanah, and has all the energy of a kitten with all the destructive force of a toddler who's able to reach the ceiling. Oh, it sounds like she wants to meow a little bit. Okay. Anyway. So as you can see, it makes sense to pick up Mega Punch and teach it Squirtle as just a good move that deals somewhat okay damage against Misty's Pokemon, though it does have some accuracy issues that you're gonna see later. All right. By the way, some basic rules for this challenge. Not using any glitches, so no, I won't be doing the missing no glitch to get a whole bunch of master balls or anything to walk through walls to access stuff that you shouldn't be able to get access. This also means I'll be getting 150 Pokemon, not 151, because I won't be using the Mew glitch because it's a glitch. I want this to be glitchless. If you were to imagine, well, if you wanted to try something like this yourself and wanted to get Mew, yeah, just do all the stuff that I'm describing here and that you're seeing happening here, and then just get Mew at the end. It would have no bearing. None of the stuff here would have any bearing on your ability to get Mew. And if you were to get Mew, it wouldn't have any bearing on doing the rest of the stuff here. One rule I have in here that I have in a lot of my runs, not that I've done that many published runs yet, but no save scumming. Generally, this isn't a big deal because if it's defeat the Elite Four under some restriction, well, if you lose a battle, that's okay, you gain some experience, you're just stronger from it. Here, there are a couple of Pokemon that you only have a finite number of opportunities to catch. In many cases, that finite number is 1. So you darn well better make sure to catch, let's say, the legendaries and Snorlax promptly. Now, this will take a number of playthroughs. 4 playthroughs at a minimum. And you might realize, okay, that gets you 4 Master Balls for the 4 Legendaries, and that's part of it. But there are also reasons why you have to play through at least most of the game 4 times. For one thing, the 4 fossil Pokemon, well, sorry, 5 fossil Pokemon, but Aerodactyl you can get in every playthrough. Between Helix Fossil and Dome Fossil, you can either get the Omanite line or the Kabuto line, and since there are 2 per line, and remember, you want 1 member of each species, and in case you've forgotten or never knew, there was no breeding in Generation 1. So you do need to play through to Cinnabar Island to resurrect a fossil 4 times. And what this is going to mean here is it's going to be 1 playthrough of blue that we're seeing now, 1 playthrough of red, and 2 playthroughs of yellow. Part of the reason for that diversity is there are reasons why you'll want red, blue, and yellow playthroughs. Specifically, why would you want a blue playthrough? Well, it's the only of those 3 games where you can get Magmar, or Meowth, or Persian. Why would you want a red playthrough? It's the only way you can get Electabuzz, or Ekans, or Arbok. And you might think, well, wait a minute, can't you, do we really need yellow? Aren't there some added difficulties in yellow? And yes, there are, and no, we don't need yellow, but we want it. And why is that? Tauros and Kangaskhan. In all 3 games, they're only available in the Safari Zone. In all 3 games, Sorry about that. Another technical glitch, but in all three games, they're likely to flee pretty quickly. The difference is, in red and blue, in any of the areas of the Safari Zone, neither Kangaskhan nor Tauros appears more than 4% of the time. In the yellow version, I think Kangaskhan can appear 10% in its area, and Tauros can appear 15% in its area. Might be that I've got the 10 and the 15 flipped. And so all told, that would mean that you can get through it all about three times more quickly. And considering how much of a pain that section is when trying to complete a Pokedex in red, blue, and well, in just red and blue, having it only be a third as much of a pain is a really big deal. So it's going to be 4 playthroughs. The first 3 will be noticeably different from each other. There's this one. In the red version playthrough, I will be trading to and from this blue, also allowing me to trade in Pokemon that have been leveled up from red to blue, leveled up there and back to red. Having to be a somewhat different experience, also a different starter. And also, I know this might feel like a glitch to some people, but it's not. It is how they designed it, but gonna be trading over from in blue version and picking up, well, 4 of the HMs. I'm not picking up Flash. Gonna be trading over Pokemon that know those HM moves to allow us to skip going up to Bill's place in Nugget Bridge, skip the SSN, and skip the Safari Zone until I'm ready to actually catch specific Pokemon there, which I might not even be doing. Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be doing any Safari Zone catching in red. As you can see, I'm catching an awful lot of Pokemon here. This isn't purely to try to complete the living dex as much as I can, right? I'm not going to end this video with 120 some odd Pokemon registered. I'm trying to register 50 Pokemon so that I can get the EXP ALL. It's the Generation 1 version of the EXP share. And so this video is going to be playing through the main game and getting 50 Pokemon. And it's going to also be actually getting the EXP ALL, but I forgot to do that, and I only realized it after I finished it and before I started the voiceover. So, unfortunately, we'll have to get the EXP ALL at the beginning of the second video. Second video is going to be playthrough of red, different commentary there. I'm giving a lot of commentary just on what this run's going to be about overall, and that's fine. This is going to be the longest of all the parts. And I do want you to be able to see all the footage here. By the way, here we're at Surge's gym. Not sure if you know about this, but there's a glitch where only half of the garbage cans, or 8 of the 15 garbage cans, can actually have the first lock. And the location of the second lock is not where it's supposed to be in red and blue. They do fix it in yellow, but about half the time it's in the upper left. And so strategically, you always go there. Well, strategically, they might say save, always go there. And if that doesn't work, then check one of the other locations. But with no save scumming, we can't use that strategy for this anyway. But it doesn't matter. You will be able to see the complete footage of my getting all 150 Pokemon, all the playthroughs, all the runs. And so with this video being close to an hour long, I figured a lot of that introductory stuff I can talk about while the main video is actually progressing through. I also figured this early portion here is where most viewers would need the least description of why I'm doing what I'm doing. If I'm doing anything that looks stupid, it probably is. Uh, if you've been noticing, I did not play this first playthrough particularly well. Yeah, there, I just dug out of rock tunnel, not because I needed to or was in trouble, because I realized, hey, I think I actually want some Pokeballs. And oh yeah, I think I did end up healing there as well. Uh, and I completely neglected to actually heal at the Pokemon Center right outside Rock Tunnel. And so I was sent all the way back to Vermilion. Okay. Yeah, I make a lot of mistakes like that. You've seen a number of them. You saw the failed battle against the Light Years trainer. You saw the failed battles against Misty, where I needed to be a slightly higher level, and Mega Punch kept missing, and it took like 3 tries to beat her. None of those issues should happen on the other playthroughs, because I'm going to be using over-leveled Pokemon, because I'm going to pretty quickly trade stuff over to Blue, and by use of the EXP ALL, get stuff up to like level 30 or 40 before I even start the main run. Alright, was there anything else that I wanted to discuss before just going straight up ordinary narration? Yeah, there was something. So, in order to reduce the repetitiveness, if I'm going to be going through 4 playthroughs and narrating, so there's this. I haven't really been narrating much, but again, stuff hasn't gotten that interesting yet. Just pointing out that I'm catching a lot of stuff to try to get 50 Pokemon registered in order to get the EXP ALL. Okay, fine. Red version is going to be a little bit different with a different starter, but also what it's like when you can do all those skips and have an overleveled Pokemon start the run. Yellow version, there are some qualitative differences, albeit a lot of them in the second half. Like, I'm not sure if you know about this, but they increased the levels of the gym leader's Pokemon for gyms 5 through 8. It creates a smoother level curve from the gyms leading into the Elite Four, as opposed to here where, well, you know, maybe it isn't a smoother level curve. Yeah, I was gonna say that, but here, yeah, you've got like the second to last gym's like level 47-ish, and then you finish off with the level 50, and then shortly afterward you're looking at the level 55 plus Elite Four. But I realize now, no, that actually is a rather smooth level curve, and so they did not increase the levels of the Elite Four's Pokemon. They only increased the levels of the later gyms. In fact, maybe a bunch of the gyms, but it starts to feel like it gets out of hand around Koga, where suddenly you're in only the 5th gym and he's got a level 50 Venomoth and uses crazy troll strategies that, well, in the 3rd playthrough with Yellow, I'll talk about. For the 4th playthrough, what I'm thinking of doing is, rather than narrating what's going on in the game, I'll be narrating my reimagined version of if I were to do any ROM hacking and just try to create a version of Kanto where all the non-normal types are represented by a major battle. Normal type just wasn't... It was a kind of weird type to try to specialize on because it wasn't super effective against anything. But for the others, I've been thinking about that for a while, and I'll get into it uh, as the voiceover for the second yellow playthrough, because the first yellow playthrough and the second yellow playthrough will be almost identical, and there's not going to be much point in my pointing out the same differences twice, if you know what I mean. Anyway, so with all that out of the way, where have we progressed to? Wartortle is not too far from evolving into a Blastoise. We've gotten through Rock Tunnel. We've got 3 gym badges, and are on our way to try to get the Self Scope to progress further into the second half of the game. I delay battling Erica for a while because I've noticed with the Blastoise into Starmie strategy, you really want to level up your Starmie as much as you can. And once Starmie knows Psychic and Ice Beam, you notice I got the Ice Beam TM from the girl on the roof. Erica's Jam is actually a breeze, even though you feel like you might be a little bit behind. You might be at a type disadvantage, but it's not actually an issue. So I want to save that just to try to get Starmie that little extra experience, because it is a bit of an experience gap. You also notice I'm gathering up a whole lot of rare candies. When I'm doing a typical playthrough, I'll use those to make up the level gap between closing gym leaders and Elite Four. I'll finish with I'll beat Giovanni, and Starmie will be around level 42-ish, and I'll give him like 10 or so rare candies, and then with beating the 6th rival battle, entering the Elite Four around level 53. Here, that's not what I'm doing. I want to save the rare candies just in case I need them for evolving Pokemon. I am bearing in mind what I call the Big 8. Yeah, if you're trying to do not even a living dex, but any completed Pokedex in Gen 1, there are 8 specific Pokemon that are not obtainable in the wild in their fully evolved forms. You have to start with pre-evolved versions of them and level them up, and evolve at level 32 or later. Those 8 are Venusaur, Charizard, Blastoise, Pidgeot, Rapidash, Omastar, Kabutops, and scariest of all, Dragonite. I call those the Big 8. Dragonite, you can view as so big, he's almost as big as the other 7 of the Big 8 put together. It would take, if you're not using rare candies, it would take something like 200,000 EXP to evolve a Dragonite. The others that are considered big, you're talking like somewhere between 30,000 and 40,000. So it's okay, it's like 6 to 1. 5, 6 to 1. Yeah, and so in the second starting in that second playthrough, you'll see me playing with the Big 8 in mind. And part of that is, well, rather than getting a Dratini all the way up to level 55 by wild battles or trainer battles or anything, if we can get him up to level 30, evolve into a Dragonair, and then give him a bunch of rare candies from these various games, that feels like the way to go. Now, you can actually do that barely touching the rare candies in blue version at all. In fact, you can bypass them entirely, though that would require spending the time to play all the way through Pokemon Mansion, where there are 2 rare candies in both yellow versions, and I do not intend to actually play through that far in yellow version. Oh yeah, the EV. Right? Another reason why you need 4 playthroughs. So I just saw the EV here. Yeah, 3 games, 3 evolutions, and then you also need the base version of Eevee. So you do need 4 of them. Yeah, so you do need there to be 4 playthroughs. Okay, you might be wondering why I'm getting a second Abra. You might think, okay, to get to level 16 and get a Kadabra as well. That's actually not what I'm doing. See, if you go through Diglett's Cave here, I mean, you would be able to get Flash, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm doing this in-game trade that is the only way to get a Mr. Mime, at least in red and blue. There might be some weird way of getting one in yellow. Yeah. I'm also making sure to get that Moonstone. Now, I actually forgot to get the hidden Moonstone in Mount Moon. Probably should have made a point of getting it, and in the red version playthrough, I will make a point of getting it just so that viewers will see where it is. But there are 2 Moonstones in Mount Moon, and I only got 1 of them. You need 4 Moonstones for a complete playthrough. Well, okay, you kind of need 4 Moonstones for a complete living dex. 1 for Wigglytuff, 1 for Clefable, 1 for Nidoking, 1 for Nidoqueen. In this playthrough in blue thus far, I'm only getting 3. 1 Mount Moon, I should be getting a second. 1 in the game corner, and 1 that we just saw there. Okay, now, this was kind of important. I did successfully catch Snorlax. And by the way, that actually brings the Pokedex total up to 30. Again, that's not... doesn't mean 30 distinct... so the evolved forms count for both, or that this is Gen 1 Pokedex math, not Living Dex math. But that's what we need for that 50. Yeah. In case you're wondering what I was doing, going up and down there on that part of the cycling road, there's a hidden rare candy there. Yeah, given that I might end blue with extra rare candies, I might not actually, so it might have been a bit of a waste of time to actually get that particular rare candy, but force of habit, I guess. Alright. Entering Safari Zone here. Of course, if we can get a Tauros or a Kangaskhan or a Chansey or a Pinsir, that'd be nice, but that, spoiler alert, that does not happen. And that's okay. Little annoyed that Rhydon escaped, but what we really do like is between the Nidorina and 2 executes, now we're pretty much ready. We can evolve both of them. Did I cash? Yes, I did end up cashing that Paris, which I don't think I had caught one of in Mount Moon. Yeah, now you see I paused a bit there. I think I had to get the cat off my lap or something. But yeah, do you get a good haul? Yeah, I'd say that's a good haul from the Safari Zone. Alright. And so, in case you're wondering where we are playthrough-wise, the next play, the next step is defeating Koga. Well, okay, it looks like I decided to handle some dex filling first. But what was that going here? Why did I... Oh, I hadn't actually evolved the Executor yet. There we go. Yeah. And you can see, yeah, we're at like 36 Pokemon registered thus far. The goal is 50 for this playthrough, or for this session of the playthrough. And I start doing some math and saying, oh yeah, I'm gonna get kind of close. Yeah, here I make the mistake of attempting to use strength before I've gotten Erica's gym badge, and thus I'm not allowed to use strength yet. But that's okay. But anyway, I'm calculating it. I'm going to get kind of close. We're at like 36. The fossils will bring us to 38. The Staryu that I'm going to evolve in Starmie is already going to be 40. And then there are going to be some other freebies, like the Hitmon, the Lapras. And so I realized, when I was first planning this out, I was thinking I was going to have to, after beating the Elite Four, have a bit of a catching or leveling up grinding binge to try to get up to 50 in order to get the EXP All. And it turns out I managed to have 50 Pokemon already. Pretty close, if not right upon beating the Elite Four, then shortly afterward. Yeah, I'll mention what it might have been. I forgot if Mewtwo was my 50th or 51st. Yeah, this is the place where you can get Tangela. And you might be wondering, after I catch this Tangela, which I think took a few tries, but after I catch this Tangela, I'm still going around looking for stuff. And you might be wondering what I'm doing. I'm looking for a level 32 Pidgeotto. I've talked about the Big 8. Pidgeotto evolves into Pidgeot at level 36. And so you really want to make sure that you've got someone who's already close to that. I decided that level 30 probably isn't enough. And actually, to speed it up the most, what I would really want to do is catch it in red or yellow version. Trade it in so that it gains the EXP more quickly. Yes, even with EXP All, it gains EXP more quickly if it's a foreign traded Pokemon. Well, foreign is in foreign game, not foreign language. They did not introduce the further EXP bonus for foreign languages until, I believe, Generation 4. Here I'm able to snag a Tentacool. Yeah, you can see my Pokedex is already at 39. I don't remember how I even got. How did I get to 39 from? I must have picked up a couple more that I. But anyway. Yeah, I'm storing a bunch of stuff. Now I store the Pokeflute. That was a mistake. I think I do end up losing a battle because someone falls asleep. Maybe I didn't lose a battle. Maybe it's just that my Starmie fell asleep and I had to swap into someone else. But, yeah. I should have immediately withdrawn it and just forgot to. Okay. And here we are getting the fossils to pretty much never use. I'm not even leveling up this Omanite into an Omastar. Again, the Omastar is one of the big 8. If I'm going to be leveling it up by carry grinding with the EXP All, so I prefer someone that doesn't start in this playthrough. Yeah. Okay, here's a bit of an exploit. Should have mentioned it before, but I went from Pallet Town down to Cinnabar Island directly without going through the Seafoam Islands, even though I am in the Seafoam Islands here, to snag this Staryu. Typically, I like to try to get a higher level Staryu than this, but I figured, this has gone on long enough. This is going to be the longest video of I'm thinking it's going to be something like 11 parts. One for each of the 4 playthroughs, and then when it comes to getting the Pokemon and doing the living dex, doing it one box at a time. Oh, right, one big thing that I should have mentioned. Yeah, for a living dex. So, strictly speaking, to complete a living dex, you just need all 150 or however many are in that version, right, in that generation, but let's say 150 Pokemon. Just because you have all 150 Pokemon doesn't mean you could bring any given one into battle without a whole lot of sifting through disorganized boxes of Pokemon. So another rule that I'm implementing here is the challenge is not complete until those 150 Pokemon are neatly organized. And so it's not enough to just have them. They have to be in order in the boxes. So I'll be uploading videos for one box at a time. I think boxes 7 and 8 all combine into one, because box 8 would only be half full. 7 times 20 is 140, so you'd only be talking about 10 additional Pokemon. And those specific 10 are by and large, well, yeah, they're Pokemon that I have already obtained earlier. It's the legendaries. I'm just going to grab those one per playthrough with the Master Balls. It's the Dratini line. Yes, I've talked about how Dragonite is a pain, but I'm planning a lot of the run around that. And it's some of the fossils. And that's it. That's anything that goes into that box. So I'm already gonna have them, so it's not going to be a whole lot of extra grinding. Assuming that I've got the big 8 taken care of relatively early on. Well, early on in the grinding portion and dex filling portion. In my practice run before I actually did any of this, that is how it worked out. Anyway, trying to get Starmie some extra EXP. So I finally went through Erica's gym, so I can use strength now. And now going through Starmie being a psychic type has the advantage against all of these fighting types in the fighting dojo. Which, I guess, brief spoiler alert for my reimagining, but I think it would have been cooler if this were the Dragon's Den and this is where you got Dratini. Instead, saving Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan for Game Corner prizes. Especially as fighting is already represented by Bruno. Yeah. I've got some ideas for the 2 types that don't have enough Pokemon in them. And it's just the Ghost and Dragons only have 1 evolutionary line. And so you really can't have a major type specialist with a large team. Oh yeah, this hilarious thing with the Magmar. First of all, I was lucky enough to encounter the Magmar just naturally in a playthrough without a whole lot of effort to search for it. Never mind the number that he did on my Starmie, but also, if you notice where I was standing when I encountered it, I was standing off the edge of the building. Yeah, you know how in Pokemon Mansion you have to jump through the giant hole in the side of the building and land in the basement. Yeah, it was mid-jump. I did not know that was possible. I did not know it was possible to encounter a Pokemon on that square. Until this playthrough right here, right now. Hidden rare candy there, don't forget about that. Yeah. Oh yeah, also, yes, you can dig out. I'm choosing not to skip any of these trainers in Blaine's gym, just because, well, I'm mainlining a water type who needs some extra levels. I want Starmie to be around level 50 by the time we start the Elite Four run, and I want to try to do that without using any rare candies. What this ultimately is going to mean is that I'm going to be spending a lot of time in the Silphco office building, beating a whole lot of trainers there, and maybe that is a bit of a waste of time. With all the acceleration in gameplay here, acceleration in showing the footage here, it's not going to waste that much of your time. But I just kind of arbitrarily decided, let's try to make sure that Starmie is level 45 before defeating Giovanni there. However, well, when I was mentally debating, do I want to use a bunch of the rare candies here or save them for leveling up Pokemon for evolution later? I decided to save for later, but I was thinking, well, wait. Some of my viewers might want to see the fast route through Silphco. Because I've heard a lot of people complaining about Silphco as, oh my god, it's such a complicated maze. And it is one of the final. Somewhere in here, I'm going to work in my description of what they had in mind for pace of play in the original games, and that I actually prefer it to the pace of play that they have in the modern games. But part of that is having this somewhat complicated maze where you step on a warp tile and you have no idea where it's going to take you. Yeah. So, anyway, what you want to do is you go to the 5th floor, head down, get the card key. Then you go to the 9th floor, you go to the healing spot, you go through here, beat this trainer right here, and you saw the warp tile beyond him. Yeah, just there, and that takes you to the rival battle. And once you beat that rival battle, for one thing, you can get Lapras. For another, you can go ahead and beat Giovanni. Yeah. You notice I'm going for the X specials here, just because I want to be able to do noticeably more damage with the Surf to Alakazam than Alakazam can heal with Recover. If you're only doing marginally more, then it's just a really annoying battle back and forth. Anyway, so right past here, once I beat this trainer, you notice I'm going back, because I said I wanted to be level 45 for taking on Giovanni. And I'm only at around level 40, so there's going to be some level grinding here. I don't really know which are the most efficient trainers to grind against. Scott's Thoughts, that PokeTuber, has a whole thing on it where I just haven't paid enough attention to when he's talking about which trainers to fight. Oh yeah, in case you're on the 10th floor, rare candy there. Also TM26 Earthquake. Good TM, but I don't end up using it. Also, when you get to the 7th floor, TM03 Swords Dance. Really good TM there, but again, not what I'm using. Starmie is a special attacker. And so Swords Dance sharply boosting physical attacks just wouldn't do me any good. Could even get in the way if I get confused. Yeah, I'm just checking here to see how many more EXP do I think it's going to be. Because I was starting to lose patience with myself here. Hopefully, viewers, you're not losing patience with me. And slowly getting up to level 45. Now, again, most of the relevant stuff for completing a living dex isn't how do you even beat all the trainers and get through the Elite Four to begin with. It's how do you efficiently get everything you need and level everyone up. But for example, one rookie mistake people would try to make is when they're looking at getting a Lickitung. So the only way you can get a Lickitung, I guess you can. Might be wild ones available in Cerulean Cave in yellow. That would mean beating Elite Four in yellow. But if you're just doing it in red and blue, you might think, oh boy, I've got to level a Slowpoke all the way up to level 37, and then trade it away, and then do it all again so I can have the Slowpoke, or the Slowbro. And that is not what needs to happen. With the Super Rod, you can actually fish for a fully evolved Slowbro. It has as high as I think a 25% encounter rate in some areas. I think Cerulean Cave among them. And so you just get 2 of them, and you trade one of them for the Lickitung, and that's that. And you're not adding 2 more to the big 8. Remember, I'm describing Big 8 as stuff that needs to be evolved up to level 32 or higher. Now, you might wonder why 32, it's somewhat arbitrary. Well, just because one of the starters evolves at level 32, and there's just such a clean break between that and the next Pokemon that is only ever available in a pre-evolved form. Anyway, finally have enough EXP to beat Giovanni. Getting the Master Ball, as I mentioned, we're going to be using this one on Mewtwo. I mentioned we don't plan on beating the Elite Four or even making it to Victory Road in Red Book. Okay, another thing that people seem to complain about sometimes is navigating through Sabrina's gym. Diagonal, diagonal, down. That's how you get from the entrance to Sabrina's gym. You hit the warp pad at the entrance, you go diagonally across, get to a second room, go diagonally across there, and then go down. Now, you notice I didn't go straight down. It's because I wanted that little bit of extra EXP. I wanted to actually fight the trainer, though not enough to take detours, but I wanted to fight just that one trainer. And as you can see, I'm at level 47. I'm thinking, okay, yeah, like 3 more levels. I'll be at level 50, and that'll be enough to take on the Elite Four, I think, especially with all the X specials I have. Fine. Now, okay, this trainer here, I'm fighting him in Giovanni's gym to try to get him to move, or to try to get him to not move. I go through there. Now, I only end up fighting 2 trainers plus Giovanni. Now, maybe what I should have done is fight more and fight fewer rockets in Silphco. That honestly probably would have been a better call. As I mentioned, I did not play through this run particularly well. By the way, in case you're wondering why my character wasn't spinning all the way in the on the spinny tiles, that is the software that I'm using to speed up the footage. It actually deletes frames, and it turns out it was deleting the frames when I was facing the other way. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Rhyhorn doesn't have the best attacks, and so if I'm gonna use X specials, Rhyhorn's a good one to use against for the setup. Because now, yeah, as you can see, despite Alakazam's high special, and including special defense, because it was a unified stat in Gen 1, a single Surf probably wouldn't have been enough to do half damage, in which case Recover could have just negated all of it. You throw in 2 X specials, and that solves that problem. Alright. I actually ran out of repels. Well, I'm about to. And so, gonna get a number of encounters that I don't actually want. Yeah. Here's a rare candy. There's a TM there. I end up fighting this trainer on purpose because I feel like I just want a little more EXP, even though I am at level 50. It is a lower level than I typically use. I typically face Giovanni and I face Lorelei somewhere between level 53 and 55. So this is a little bit of new ground for me, taking on the Elite Four with a Pokemon at such a low level. I'm thinking, okay, well, we'll see how this goes. Almost getting knocked out here. And so, yeah, as you can see, I kind of had it with all the recovers there and just using X special. Yeah, so I was thinking of catching that Onix, but I realized I didn't actually have any Pokeballs. Oh, I guess I did have a few. Why did I? Yeah, I failed to catch this Machop. And so my one remaining Pokeball is the Master Ball, and I've got non-Machop plans for that. But here we are, about to take on the Elite Four. And there I completely walk the wrong way, and then like an old man who's suddenly wandering into the kitchen and can't remember why he's there. Now, one thing I am keeping an eye on is the amount of money I have. Yeah, that I think was the cat, where you see auto fire enabled and auto fire disabled. That I think was the cat stepping on the keyboard. Or maybe it was that. No, I grabbed the keyboard and moved and ended up accidentally hitting the control key. But anyway, yeah. I use a couple of X specials and I'm able to handle Lorelai's, but I was hit by Lapras once. Sometimes that results in my being paralyzed. That's part of why I have the full restores. I will be using the full restores between battles here. I'd even be okay using them in battle. I don't fully understand people who freak out when you start using items in battle. The trainers use items in battle. The trainers use full restores in battle. Now, okay, maybe the issue is, oh, well, you could just load up on a bunch of them, but, yeah. Either way, I'm mostly just using them outside of battle or between the battles. And I get a bit of a nasty shock coming up here, where Aerodactyl outspeeds me and leaves me on 2 HP. Now, it wouldn't have been a huge issue had I been KO'd and lost the battle, but I wanted to keep all that money I've been saving up, because before the end of this video, I did want to actually get a Dratini. Cost 4,600 coins at the game corner. I was going to need 92,000 Pokebucks. With stuff I have, I'll end up with about 100,000. And yeah, there we go. Again, Starmie with the moves Surf, Psychic, Thunderbolt, and Ice Beam can one-shot most of the Elite Four. Okay, yeah, tabbing through the credits. And now, just in these last couple of minutes, spending quite a bit of time getting all those coins for a Dratini. And if you're thinking, oh, great, if that's for 4,600, you're going to have to spend that much more time for Porygon when the time comes. Yes, that is absolutely correct. If you're worried about the amount of money I'll have for being able to buy the coin, that many coins, don't be worried about that. When I level up the big 8, largely by Elite Four grinding, I'm going to get a whole bunch of money for that anyway. So being able to afford Porygon is not going to actually be a big deal. As you can see, like 2/3 of the way through now. It's 4,600 coins. Now, yeah, this is sped up pretty quickly. Yeah, I can see why some people complain about Porygon specifically, but Dratini. Now, okay. In red version, Dratini is cheaper, but lower level. And so if I'm doing most of my playthrough and most of my leveling up in blue version, is it faster to use the one in from red or from blue? It's kind of about the same. All right. Now, I'm going into Cerulean Cave. It's pretty clear I want to catch Mewtwo, and this is the path to do it. You go along this water, you go south, go up that ladder, go south again when you can. Although here it looks like I went south a little too early, but yeah, you head south. Hook around to here, to where you see this ladder heading down in the northeast. Now, if you're wondering why I'm not trying to catch anything, first of all, I don't think I brought any extra Pokeballs with me. Second of all, I wasn't certain how much space there was in the Pokemon box. And with my no saves coming, if I went to catch Mewtwo and didn't have the space, that was going to be a problem. But here we are. We've caught Mewtwo. We dig out. Sorry about that abrupt ending. As I was doing voiceover, I reached the end of the video before I quite realized it. But that's the end of part 1 with the main playthrough of Pokemon Blue. Part 2 will have the associated playthrough of Pokemon Red. Stay tuned for the next video.